So I'm a little bit nervous about posting this video. I feel like I'm going to be put on a list somewhere. But I wanted to show you guys the fully 3D printed smart rocket because this is probably one of the biggest things I've ever printed and built. It's definitely the longest, and it presented some interesting design challenges that I had to account for. And I don't know, I just wanted to show you guys my big 3D print. Links to both the prints and the files can be found in the description if you want to make this for yourself. But let's talk a little bit about the assembly and the printing of this rocket. Now this rocket was printed at 0.3mm layer height and around 8% infill. Total printing time was around 200 hours for all these pieces, so it was definitely one of my longer ones. But all the pieces are pretty well separated, so printing them was really simple. And I used a gray PLA just because I felt like it would show up better than a white PLA. Now let me show you guys how I assembled this thing. Now here's all the pieces in their printed glory, all nicely separated out, but I knew that right away this thing was going to be way too long to print without any sort of internal support. I didn't want the rocket to collapse under its own weight, so I cut out 8 1/4-inch holes throughout the whole tube that I'm going to fit in these threaded metal rods into. Now you don't need to use threaded metal rods. You could either just use plain straight metal rods of the same size or wooden rods. I'd recommend wood if you are looking to save some money because these metal rods were kind of expensive. They're like $4 a piece, and the threaded ones were actually cheaper than the solid ones. I just wanted to be a little bit extra and give this thing some nice weight and some nice heft to it, so I wanted to go with metal rods. I had to cut the rods down to size a little bit because they're a little bit too long, so I just grabbed a metal cutting disc for a Dremel and cut these down to size. Now I found the simplest way to assemble all this was just to put 2 rods in one of the bottom pieces and then slide on the rest on top of that. That way I didn't have to align 8 rods, I just had to align 2, and then we'll slide the rest of the rods in. And once all the rods are in, we'll slide in the top cap, and this thing is ready for gluing. Now for gluing, I'm just going to be using some E6000. It's very, very strong stuff. Takes around 24 hours to fully cure though. So once we put all this glue in, we're going to let it sit overnight. I just separate the tube out a little bit, put some E6000 on the metal rods, and then slide it back together. Just kind of work my way down while also adding in all the little handles, grips, and accessories. One thing I wish I wouldn't have done though is once all the glue is in there, I laid the rocket flat, and it actually has a little expanded area towards the end of the rocket, and that actually kind of made it lean a little bit. So I'd recommend just standing the rocket upwards while you're waiting for the glue to cure. But after 24 hours, this thing is fully ready to go. I am very pleased with how durable it is. I can hold this thing with one hand and like bounce it around. It weighs around 10 pounds with all the filament and the metal rods inside, so it's got the heft that I want. And it's kind of just a fun piece to throw over your back. You could even look down the scope and pretend you're shooting a Republic tank or a Separatist tank or something. The Smart Rocket is different from the RPS-6, which you see in like the Clone Wars and Rebels a few times. This rocket made its appearance in the new Battlefront games. It's a special ability for the aerial troopers that can pull out a rocket launcher. This is a fun project to print. I don't know if I'm gonna smooth it out and paint it or anything because it doesn't really go to any of the costumes that I have, but I think it'll be a fun wall piece. It's not exactly something you can take out outside and out in public, you know? But anyway, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.